Princess Charlotte's heartbreaking reaction as Princess Catherine is rushed away. The crisp morning air in Windsor carried the usual sounds of laughter from the Wales children's playroom. Princess Charlotte had been in high spirits, chattering to her brothers about their plans for the day. But in an instant, that light-hearted atmosphere shattered, replaced by panic, confusion, and tears. This was the day Princess Charlotte would see her mother, Catherine, Princess of Wales, rushed to hospital. And for the young royal, it was a moment she would never forget. It began like any other school day. Catherine was preparing breakfast in the family kitchen at Adelaide Cottage, while William helped ensure George and Charlotte had their school bags packed. Little Louis, still groggy, was leaning against the counter, yawning dramatically to make his mother smile. But Catherine wasn't feeling her usual self. She had been moving slower, wincing slightly when bending to pick something up. William had noticed. "Are you all right, darling?" he asked quietly, placing a hand on her arm. "I'm fine, Will," she replied with a small smile. "Just a bit lightheaded." "Probably nothing." It wasn't nothing. As the children gathered their coats by the door, Catherine suddenly gripped the edge of the counter, her knuckles turning white. Her face lost its color. "Mummy." Charlotte's voice carried a note of concern. William was already moving toward her. "Kate, sit down now." But before she could respond, Catherine swayed and dropped to her knees, clearly in pain. The clatter of a glass hitting the floor startled the children. Louis froze, wide-eyed. George instinctively put a protective arm around his younger sister. Charlotte, however, stepped forward, her eyes fixed on her mother, her small voice trembling. "Mummy, what's happening?" William quickly called the palace's private medical team. Within minutes, 2 cars arrived, bringing paramedics and security staff. The children were ushered toward the hallway by their nanny, Maria, but Charlotte resisted, her feet planted firmly. "I'm not leaving her," Charlotte cried, tears already welling in her eyes. From the doorway, she could see Catherine being gently helped onto a stretcher. The Princess of Wales, though pale and clearly in discomfort, was trying to reassure her daughter. "It's all right, darling," she managed, forcing a faint smile. "I'll be fine. I promise." But for Charlotte, the sight of her mother surrounded by medical staff, her father's face etched with worry, was too much. The tears spilled over, and she began to sob openly. Prince William knelt beside Charlotte, taking her hands in his. He was caught in the impossible position of being both the future king and a father whose child was scared out of her wits. "Mummy's going to the hospital so the doctors can make her feel better," he explained, his voice calm but tight with emotion. "I'll call you the moment I know anything. You need to be brave for George and Louis, okay?" Charlotte shook her head, clinging to him. "I don't want her to go." "I know, sweetheart," William whispered, kissing the top of her head. "Neither do I." As the stretcher was wheeled past, Charlotte's tears turned into a quiet, hiccuping cry. She whispered, "I love you, Mummy," her voice almost lost in the bustle. Catherine turned her head toward her daughter, her own eyes glistening. "I love you too, my darling girl." The car doors closed, and within seconds, the convoy was moving toward the hospital. Charlotte stood on the steps of Adelaide Cottage, her small frame shaking as she watched the taillights disappear down the drive. Maria and George did their best to comfort Charlotte as William followed the convoy to the hospital. The children were given the option to stay home from school, but George, ever the stoic eldest, suggested they go, perhaps trying to distract his sister from the morning's events. Charlotte reluctantly agreed, though her usual cheerful chatter was gone. At school, her friends noticed her subdued mood, and teachers gave her extra care throughout the day. But nothing could erase the image in her mind, her mother, pale and fragile, being taken away. Meanwhile, at King Edward VI's hospital in London, the facility where many senior royals receive care, Catherine underwent a series of tests. Doctors assured William that her condition, while needing urgent attention, was not life-threatening. It appeared to be a combination of exhaustion, dehydration, and a flare-up of a pre-existing medical issue. Still, the recommendation was clear. She needed to be admitted for observation. William remained at her side, texting updates to Maria so the children would be kept in the loop without unnecessary alarm. When school ended, Charlotte returned home and immediately asked, "Can we see her?" But William's message came through. Visits would have to wait until the doctors finished their assessments. That evening, Charlotte curled up in her bed, clutching the soft toy her mother had given her years ago. George sat nearby, reading quietly, while Louis played with building blocks on the floor. Maria entered with a message from William. "Tell Charlotte Mummy says she loves her and will call in the morning." That was when Charlotte's composure broke completely. She buried her face in the pillow and cried, her small shoulders trembling. She wasn't just scared, she felt powerless. Late that night, William returned briefly to check on the children. Charlotte ran straight to him, asking a flurry of questions. "Is she better? Did she eat? Is she sleeping?" William hugged her tightly. "She's resting, and the doctors are taking excellent care of her. She told me to give you the biggest hug in the world." It wasn't the same as having her mother home, but Charlotte clung to the reassurance. By the following afternoon, doctors allowed short visits. William brought Charlotte and George to the hospital, leaving Louis at home to avoid overwhelming Catherine. When Charlotte saw her mother propped up in bed, smiling warmly despite her hospital gown and foredrip, her eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were tears of relief. She rushed to Catherine's side, hugging her gently so as not to disturb the medical equipment. "I was so scared, Mummy," Charlotte whispered. Catherine stroked her daughter's hair. "I know, my love. But I'm okay now, thanks to the doctors and to you for being so brave." Before leaving, Charlotte made her mother promise to send a good-night text every evening until she came home. Catherine agreed without hesitation, knowing how much it meant to her daughter's peace of mind. That night, Charlotte received her first text. "Good night, my darling girl. I love you to the moon and back. Sleep well. Love, Mummy." Charlotte smiled for the first time in days. By the end of the week, Catherine was discharged and returned to Adelaide Cottage, greeted by hugs and happy chaos from all three children. Charlotte didn't leave her side for the rest of the day, following her from room to room, as if making sure she was truly there. For a young royal, life is often full of glittering events, school lessons, and carefully managed routines. But this experience left a mark on Charlotte, a reminder that even the strongest people sometimes need care, and that love is shown not just in grand gestures, but in being there when it matters most.